I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the channel, but I love the Zero Escape series. Like, start to finish, adore it. So when we got news of the World's End Club, a collaborative effort from the minds of Zero Escape's Kotaro Uchikoshi, the Infinity series Takumi Nakazawa, and Danganronpa's creator and writer Kazutaka Kodoka, there was an understandable build of hype around this project. A mystery visual novel done with the suspense writing of Kotaro Uchikoshi, with stylized artistic designs akin to Danganronpa's series with character designs by Takeguru, who's possibly best known for some of her designs in Pokemon Sun and Moon. This was a recipe for something truly unique, and the trailer itself made the premise look really promising. I remember I was deep in a replay of the Zero Escape series as well as playing through Phoenix Wright again, so when this finally dropped, I was quick to pick it up, play it for about 10 minutes, and then promptly shelved it because I just wasn't in the mood. But sure enough, 3 years later, I was ready to tear into it. The World's End Club starts off with you setting out on a school trip with the Go-Getters Club, a group of friends who will act as your playable characters, each with their own personalities, hobbies, and passions. The gang consists of Reicho, our silent protagonist, Vanilla, a sweet girl that often goes ignored, Pochi, our reserved gamer, Aniki, the angsty brute, Pai, the lovable airhead, Nyoro, the scientific genius, Jinu, the theater lover, Kanzai, the sports fan, Tatsune, the super Sentai fanatic, Mochan, the foodie and lovable oaf, Chuko, our hot-headed small fry, and Yuki, the newcomer who's a bit of a mystery. They're the tightest group of friends you'll ever meet. But when something mysteriously strikes Tokyo, and our gang wake up in an abandoned underwater theme park, they'll find their friendship strained to the breaking point. They find that they are each given a wristband containing a required task of another one of the friends. Whoever can figure out their task and complete it before anyone else wins the game and becomes the sole survivor of the game. This might sound familiar, as it is kind of a premise you'd expect from Danganronpa and the Zero Escape series. The leader Reicho will act as our main character as he tries to keep everyone sane, as well as figuring out what his task might be. Plus, they're monitored and bossed around by this little robot named Penelope, and I absolutely adore that.
That's right!
So now you've got this premise that totally feels like a Nonary Games type ordeal, which will have you learning about each character, finding out their motives, and trying to find a way to save everyone. Except, none of this happens the way you think it does. While you do end up saving your friends, it's because you chose not to play the game and go against the wishes of Penelope, thus unlocking a hidden power deep within Reicho which saves his friends and finds them back to the surface. So this whole setup premise is resolved within around an hour's playtime. What follows is journeying with your friends back to Tokyo, while trying to figure out what the game was about, what happened to Tokyo, and why everyone in Japan has seemed to have disappeared. This is your actual game. I've gotta say, it's pretty interesting to see a standard type of Zero Escape story immediately get shifted into this more wholesome trek back to Tokyo while solving mysteries along the way. It also tells me that the artist didn't really want to make another one of the games you'd expect, which would just ride the coattails of their previous success. The actual game is divided up into different modes, that being story arcs and camp time sessions. These kind of mimic the Danganronpa format of these daily life, deadly life, and class trial sections of those games. Story does what you'd imagine and furthers the plot along, with Reicho being able to choose what path the gang takes to get back to Tokyo. This of course can usually lead to a divide in the group and has you handling a small portion of the characters, usually with one of the characters also unlocking an ability along the way. This is usually done in an arc section of the game where the gameplay takes place. These abilities that awaken in the characters are how the levels are traversed, usually mixing in combat and puzzle solving with their abilities. No level is very long and usually consists of a puzzle here and there and possibly a boss battle. If you think the gameplay looks a little stiff, you're absolutely right, and we will tear into that momentarily, but first let's talk about my favorite part of the game, the campfire sessions. Usually after a bit of story and traversing a level, the gang will settle down for the night and go over things like what's happening in the story and things about themselves. So basically, if you like visual novels, it's the meat and potatoes of the experience. And I've gotta say, each character is pretty likable in their own way. how they all have their little hobbies and beliefs, and how that can conflict with one another, but also shows why they are the friends that they are. The characters do carry a lot of the weight of this game, so it's nice to be able to get a little invested in them. I'd say my personal favorite is Pi, because she looks adorable and kind of looks like a pie. Tatsun's another one because he's a dork with a total personality change when he gets his ability, and Yoro. Not personality wise, I just like the fact that she looks like coffee. The visual design of the characters are a big plus too. Their colors really differentiate them and helps them pop. And honestly, they all look a little obnoxious, but because they all look obnoxious, it kind of works. Personally, I'd rather have them all look so colorful and bright rather than any of them being too dull or uninteresting. Plus, somehow I think they nailed making them look like they would reflect their personality. The decisions you make will see you cross all over Japan as you make your way back to Tokyo. Which I hope you're ready to learn random things about Japan, because boy do the characters love spouting their fun facts here and there. Truthfully, the overall tone of the game sticks to being pretty lighthearted with the occasional mix of pulling at your heartstrings. It goes to show that they are trying to keep positive when everything seems to be stacked against them, highlighting that these are the beliefs of the Go-Getters Club, and if you don't believe me, they will absolutely remind you when they break out into song.
Things aren't easy, there's no doubt, but you'll never ever be alone.
Multiple times. For me personally, I love this kind of stuff. I love how silly and fun the characters are, while at the same time could totally understand that this wasn't what the fans of the Zero Escape, Infinity, and Danganronpa series may have wanted. To get to these scenarios, you'll have to traverse through many trials and ordeals that come in the form of gameplay, and I think I can confidently say that this is the weak point of the game. The controls are a mix of weirdly loose, your jumps have to be fully committed to, and anything that touches you puts you in a game over state. But don't let that bother you too much, because every part of these sections are ridiculously easy. The biggest annoyance is the occasional randomness that happens during the boss fights, like how Penelope's big form knocked me into the ocean, and somehow that was completely fine. Add on to that the puzzles are simple as they come, and if by some chance you're stumped by them, your characters will be sure to nudge you in the right direction. They do help to break up the story parts, but I found myself just wanting to get through them as fast as possible. Sadly, the gameplay not being great does put a bit of a damper on the game as a whole, because you want both aspects of a visual novel like this to be fun. The decision to make super simple side-scrolling missions with the occasional abilities to use just doesn't do enough to make it worth it. There are times where some of the characters use their abilities together, and that's what I think should have been done more. The whole game is usually about being a team and working together. I'd have loved to see that reflect more in the gameplay and not just so much more towards the end. I do feel that the characters and the overall story are enough to make the game interesting enough to play through on its own. I really do enjoy nearly every character and feel that they are written pleasantly enough to bounce off of each other that's entertaining to listen to and watch. Events show just how much they care for one another, and there are even a few times when I get teary-eyed when the game tackled some deeper parts of the stories. The mystery that hangs above our go-getters is also enough to keep you wanting to know just what's going on. It's also nice to see the characters make decisions that see them grow along this journey.
And so, Rachel? Will you take this badge from me?
That's the leader badge.
Are you sure you want to give it to Mr. Rachel?
You do learn some things that I'm obviously not trying to show or tell you in this video, because there are some pretty good twists in here, and I think you should experience them for yourself. And this is honestly something I could suggest to a younger audience. If you want to get someone more invested in a game like this, but they're a little younger, this is the perfect game to give to them. The World's End Club does a pretty good job at mixing all of these acts together and giving you a 20-ish hour experience that feels worth it. At least it did to me. But at the same time, I have to wonder if the original premise of these characters being stuck in an underwater theme park, pitting themselves against each other, would have made a better story. I think this would have been a story that felt a little closer to what the artists usually make, and that's probably what people want. If you really gave me a choice of either having the game now, or a story more focused on the task game, I would probably choose to keep it the way it is. But I do also understand that that probably wouldn't be the popular choice. But here's the thing, we already have a Danganronpa and a Zero Escape series. Sure, the World's End Club doesn't quite have the deep impact those games carry, but I don't think that was ever truly the intention. The artists clearly wanted something different and new, and I think it's totally fine that they did. I've got suspenseful games pitting characters against each other in a game of intrigue and suspicion. I don't know how many visual novels I have of friends sticking together and just being friends with a mystery to solve along the way. The World's End Club may not be perfect, but it is an experience that can be enjoyed. The mystery can be duller and the gameplay can be, well, more than rough, but I enjoyed the time I spent with the Go-Getters Club. I like learning about their crushes and what they aspire to be, and I especially like the stupid dance they do when something goes right. I mean, look at this.
It started!
I think the random burst into song and random fun facts and silly antics of the Go-Getters is just what the World's End Club is supposed to be. Fuck it up, Nyoro! Thanks for joining me as we watch the Go-Getters Club do their best. If you enjoyed this video, then leave a like and consider subscribing if you're new. As always, keep it practical and have a great day.